All right. Hey guys, today my guest is Bill Wilmore, an athlete, coach, and IFBB Pro, right?
Absolutely.
He has played an important role in my life. Thanks to him, I now speak English.
Was former wrestler and teenage Pennsylvania bodybuilding champion Bill Wilmore. Thickly developed at 5'9" and 215, the 21-year-old credits his heavy training right up to the contest for his ability to hold muscle size while dieting.
He is not only my mentor, but also a true friend.
I feel the same. Absolutely.
So I'm very happy to have him in my life, guys. And today we're recording a podcast together for my YouTube channel. Oh my god, I can't imagine. There was a time I couldn't even imagine myself recording English speaking podcast. But dreams come true, right? If you take action. And I think dreams come true when you put in a real effort.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's my American dad, you know, guys.
Yeah, you've been telling me that for quite some time now.
So, yeah, I remember the first time when we meet. So, and you ask me, hey, how are you? And oh my gosh, I can't speak English. How can I answer? How can I answer? I can't speak.
I know, I just said to you, of course I do. I said to you, I go, man, you have a great physique. I go, do you compete? And you just stared at me. And you're just like, I'm like, well, okay. Little by little. And then eventually we actually, I forget how we got to actually start training. Oh, I remember.
You remember?
I remember. Actually, they had a video up and it was one of the Olympias.
Uh-huh.
And I was on the screen and everyone's like, oh, there's Bill.
Oh, yes.
And you said, you looked at the video, you looked at me and you're like,
Yes.
no. Hey, I'm like, I'm retired now.
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
but yes, that's me. And that was the beginning of us actually starting to interact. And then I think you kind of Googled me and saw some of my accomplishments. And you're like, wait a minute, this guy must know a couple things about this sport.
At the time, I understand. You know what? He will be my mentor for Olympia.
Yeah, that's great to know. I didn't know that, but yeah. Well, it's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say if you you need people around that have been where you're trying to get to, where you're trying to go. And I can tell you from experience with my past, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of different mentors and people in my life to help guide me. And then you get to a point where you almost not that you want to feel like you want to let them down, but you just want to live up to their standards. You know, you're like, hey, I know how much work he put into it. It's almost like from that standpoint, you don't want to let them down because you want to compete at the elite standards.
Yeah. And I remember you asked me, how many weeks? You remember?
I remember.
How many? It's a short time. You remember?
I remember. And then you asked me, if I'm not mistaken, you asked me, can I help you? And I said, to be honest with you, I normally don't like helping somebody for a short time because unfortunately, however you look, it looks like that's my work.
Yeah.
You know? And I said, normally I don't do that, but I also saw you train and I just believed in you. And then I just knew that no matter how we looked for this particular show, if we were able to have a complete prep, that, you know, we could do something special. So I'm glad that I did take that challenge, and we didn't do too bad. I mean, you
We
won.
did the first place. Come on.
Exactly. But, but it was hard, we changed up a lot of things,
Yes.
stepped the intensity up, and hey, you were able to do it. You were definitely definitely a warrior in those 7 weeks.
I'm so proud our result. I'm so proud because I remember that time when I did the first place after stage, I calling you, Dad, you're the first.
I know.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
I know, it's great. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
One thing that I always like to say, though, as a coach, I feel that sometimes when people win a particular show, that sometimes the coaches like to make it about them. And I never do that to my athlete. It's their day. I had my time. I had my day. It's nice to be part of it, but it's their time to shine. And a lot of times coaches, you see some coaches talking, and it's like, yeah, I took this person from here. And it's like, and more that they're not even really talking about their athlete. If you had the time, this is their show. Let
Yeah.
them, if they want to chime in and say, hey, I'd like to thank for my coach or whatever, then that's nice. But make it a special day for them.
So maybe you remember your first time in the gym. Your first time in the gym. What the year?
First time in the gym. That's a good question, because I actually was working out for sports originally. I wrestled and I played football. So I started lifting weights at a very young age. But the actual gym, I do remember, it was Gold's Gym in Monroeville, Pittsburgh. And I started working out there. And there was a lot of competitive bodybuilders there at the time. But I was just there basically to just get stronger for sports. But I started meeting some of the bodybuilders there, and I started like kind of falling in love with it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, it was actually kind of hurt me a little bit towards in the wrestling towards the end, because I actually started wanting to put more effort into bodybuilding, but I still had this big commitment to wrestling. So that was a little bit of a problem. But it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, bodybuilding is different,
Yeah.
So you need the concentration every day, the discipline
Yeah.
every day, the meals every day. So how many meals you have
Well,
for your
over the years, things have changed. But to go back to that point that you were making, for me, it wasn't that hard, because of my wrestling background. And anybody knows anything about wrestling, to this day, I tell everybody it's one of the, if not the hardest sport, because it's not just a sport that you have to go out there and perform. So you have to be in great cardiovascular condition. You have to know what you're doing. But on top of it, there's a weight component there. You have to make weight. So I was always like, basically, we didn't know much about nutrition. We would basically starve ourselves and to make weight, get on the stage. I mean, get on the scale, make weight, do the tournament, and then do it all over again, over and over and over and over again. So I started losing weight for wrestling, like maybe when I was like 10, 11 years old. So I was always constantly like on a diet per se. So that transition for me wasn't that hard. The one thing that was hard, and even when I was competing when I was older, I wasn't a big advocate of eating all the food, you know, but as you know how important that is. So I didn't miss many meals. I was very diligent in with what I was trying to do.
How did your family feel about your getting into bodybuilding?
Well, they supported me, but they were kind of disappointed, because my whole life it was all about wrestling. So my senior year, I pretty much knew in high school that I wasn't going to wrestle in college. So, my family was disappointed for all those years. They're like, man, the reason why we did all this is so you can get a wrestling scholarship and we don't have to pay for your education. But I kind of knew that I wanted to bodybuild, you know? So after my senior year, I did not wrestle in college. And I just started really focusing all of my attention on training. And that's what made me decide to move to Florida.
Who who was the motivation person for you at the time?
Man, I wouldn't say that there's one in particular one. I'll probably name a couple of names. There was a guy named Edgar Fletcher. He was actually a big name bodybuilder in the area, actually nationwide. They actually say that he's one of the best pros to never turn pro. This guy's physique was just amazing. And I actually, when I was a teenager, I won the Mr. Teenage Pennsylvania, and he won Mr. Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we used to work out together. So I'd have to say him. And there was also another guy named Monty Webb. He actually owns a gym in Pittsburgh to this day, and we're still friends. And he was competing like in the Mr. Pittsburgh shows and junior nationals, and we would look at him and we'd be like, oh my God, this guy is just so shredded, Those two guys were a big inspiration to me locally that I knew.
So maybe you remember, how did you deal with the mental stress back in your competing days?
You know what? At the very beginning, there was not a whole lot of mental stress at the beginning. I mean, it was hard, but I loved it. Like, I loved it. I almost looked at it like, I mean, I used to have workout partners, and the goal was to make them stop, to make them say, hey, Bill, I'm done. That was my goal. For them to say, we're doing legs, and I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. But as I got older and I was competing in my early 30s, and I was like realizing to myself, if I can't make this happen soon, it's time to give it up. I took second, the nationals a couple times. When I was really young, I took third place in Mr. USA, and then I started taking like seventh, eighth place. And I was like, if this doesn't happen soon, that was stressful. Then because there was a lot of time invested and a lot of money invested. So I knew that if I didn't make it happen soon, it was time to look into doing something else.
What about your food? Your food was the same every time or no?
No, every prep is different. I always say that if you try to do the exact same thing you did for your last show, it's not going to work exactly the same because your body's in a different state all the time. The food itself is the same, I mean, it's not rocket science, it's the same, so same probably 6, 7 different, it's not a whole lot of different foods, but the amount that you eat and the timing, you might have a show that you go super low carbs, and another show, if you did the same thing, you would start going away. You would lose too much muscle. You would lose too much size. You try training twice a day, switching the protocols. Switching the protocols also a lot of times means switching the food because you won't have enough energy to do legs twice a week or legs in the morning, hamstrings in the evening. So, and you always try different programs and different things. So your nutrition has to change as well. I've never done exactly the same prep.
How many carbs you using before Olympia stage, before 2 days? So, for example.
Oh, 2 days. So that's basically carbing up.
Yes.
That depends too on like how I'm looking. There was times where I would have 700-800 grams of carbs. There's times where I would have 400 grams of carbs. It just depends on some, and also a lot of times fats worked real good for me too. So there was times where it'd be like 400 carbs, and then
How many fat?
It just varies, you know. It's a hard question to answer, you know, because even now, like I'll have people that I'm coaching, and they'll be like, "Well, how many grams of carbs do you think we're gonna carb up with?" I'm like, I have an idea, but I got to see how your body actually how it's how's it's working. Are you filling out? Are we not filling out? There's so many factors involved. You know, stress is huge. You know, is your body
Yes.
digesting this? If you're not digesting all the carbs, you know,
Mhm.
there's so much to it. That's why, like I said, it's not necessarily a cookie cutter. Like, okay, I write out this, and this is exactly what we're gonna do.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's just not how you're gonna get. You're not gonna be your best if somebody's doing that.
Genetics is very important for bodybuilding, or
Absolutely.
no?
Yeah, it's important, but it's like one of those things where it doesn't mean that somebody that doesn't have good genetics can't compete at a high level, you
Mhm.
know. But like a lot of times when you'll see like those super genetics, I obviously had really good genetics competing at the level that I did, but I was around guys that had, you know, like I turned pro the same year Phil Heath turned pro.
Mhm.
Phil had, you know, superior genetics than me. Victor Martinez had great genetics. Jay Cutler had great genetics. Kai Green totally,
Oh my God,
you
of
know,
course.
but it's like one of those things where everybody has good genetics for different things. So some people might have great genetics to be able to get big, or they might have great genetics to be super symmetrical. But some people might have great genetics to get dialed in, to get really like, you know, they can hold their size well, you know. So there's a lot to that word, you know.
What's more important, good genetic or hard job every day?
Um, that's a really tough question. You know, like because you could have all the genetics in the world, but if you're not willing to
Mhm.
put the work in,
Mhm.
and then there's different levels too. My trainer, Honey Rambod, used to always say, he used to always talk about, you know, do you want to be good, great, or do you want to be elite?
Mhm.
And to this day, I'm sure you've heard me say that many times, you know, and it's like one of those things that's true. Like average people do this, good people do this, the elite people don't miss meals, you know, like just don't. Like whatever's going on, you
Mhm.
make a way to do it. You don't miss workouts unless if your body's getting beat up and that you need a scheduled day. But you have to think like that. In every sport, the people that are at the super highest level have the ability to push past it a point that most people can't.
Mhm. Because I remember my first time, my show, and after show, I asked feedback, head judge, from the head judge.
Hmm.
What do you think about my genetic, about my job with my body? He said, "You don't have genetic.
It's a
Please stop.
no.
Please stop.
Wow.
Bodybuilding is not
What?
for you."
Wow.
And you know, after this conversation, I'm in shock. And after 1 minute, "Shit, no, I can't stop,"
No, exactly.
and continue.
But
So
you know what's
yeah,
funny?
I'm
Some
here right now.
absolutely. And sometimes though, you you can't see somebody's potential at the very beginning. You know, like some people have genetics to just put on muscle like really,
Mhm.
really easy. Next thing you know, they're eating everything that they need to. All of a sudden, they totally metamorphosize, and they're like,
Mhm.
"Wow, I didn't know that was in that person." You know, but that's definitely a genetic. You know,
If you could to go to back,
hmm
yes, what would you do differently in your training?
I don't know about what I would do different in my training. Like, that's a good question. Like, I was never one of the strongest guys.
Mhm.
Um, I was strong, obviously, but I was never one of the strongest guys. And a lot of times, me trying to just go heavier and heavier and heavier, actually, I just ended up getting hurt. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's a tough one. Am I training? I don't know. Like I don't. I feel like, you know why? Because I feel like I tried every different style of training, and I knew what worked for me. I was more of like a volume
Mm-hmm.
style training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also didn't take like huge rest in between sets. And this is no offense to the guys of today, but I see guys do a set and they're on their phone for 5 minutes scrolling Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
like you have a
Yeah.
show in
Now
five
it's a
weeks,
real
you
life, you
know.
know.
It's like they're worried about they got to get a video
Mm-hmm.
of their last set. They need to rest in between sets so they have enough rest time to do a
Yes.
video for the.
Yes.
I mean, that's none of that was happening back in the day. I promise you. Like it was literally all about you and your training. I'm not saying that. People did videos and stuff like that, but it would be a particular day.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would come in and shoot them. I'm not knocking it. If I was competing, I would probably do it a little bit more. But the rest times I see people doing now, it's just crazy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, almost to the point where they're like we were just talking about this, to the
Yeah,
point
yeah,
where
yeah.
they're totally recovered before
Mm-hmm.
their next set.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm like, I just don't believe you can build a quality physique like that. I just, I don't believe you can build that kind of density. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I just don't see how it's possible.
How long need rest between
It,
exercises?
it depends on the movement. If it was more like an isolation movement, it
Uh-huh.
would be super fast, like like a pec deck or something like that. For squats, stuff like that, leg press, you want to be recovered on, you want to make sure that you're recovered enough, like 2-3 minutes. Like if I would like to have a workout partner,
Mm-hmm.
my partner goes, okay, maybe long enough if it's a leg press or something, long enough to me maybe put some knee wraps on, and
Mm-hmm.
then I go, then he goes back and forth, like and you get that, almost like that boxer mentality of like sparring.
Yeah.
They're like you get in a groove and you get in a rhythm, but like there's no, they just rest so long. I don't see how you can get into that groove like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then but when it was like isolation exercises, it would be like fast, like like flies or something like that. You go
Mm-hmm.
you go, then I go, you know
So
but
that's it for recovery between
yeah,
sets.
yeah, you know
Uh-huh. Okay. What body part was the hardest for you to bring up?
calves, to the point where I probably gave up.
It's my favorite muscles group.
You don't even train them. No,
Every time you ask me, oh my God, sweetie, your calls.
that's crazy. That's crazy. When I was younger, I put a lot of energy into my
Mhm.
calves, and they didn't grow much. But maybe they were fuller than they were, later in my career. But towards the end, it was more like I wanted to focus mostly on my arms and legs. My legs were really good from the side,
Yeah.
and but when I would stand from the front, I didn't have a lot of sweep to my
Mhm.
quads.
Mhm.
And then the later on in my career, I started concentrating a lot on my adductors, and that really helped because when you have nice full adductors, it gives you your body on stage. It gives you that illusion of your legs being pretty much bigger than they actually are, and that really helped. But
Mhm.
so I'd say my whole workout was designed around my legs. I train legs twice a week, and my rest days, everything was designed
Mhm.
around them because
Mhm.
everything, my back, I could train it any way it would grow. My shoulders, anyway. Not that I didn't train them super hard. It just, I didn't have to put a lot of thought into it. You know, my legs, I had to think outside the box, and I couldn't grow from just, you know, getting under a squat rack and squatting 500 pounds for 6 reps. That did nothing for me. I had to like be taxed already when I got to the squat rack, and
Mhm.
then maybe do 5 sets of 15 to 20 repetitions, you know. And then I did a lot of front squats and back squats. I do front squats one day, back squats another day.
Every time he's asked me, how many dosage I need for good growth,
For,
for testosterone
uh,
maybe, for good growing,
uh,
So
that's a whole nother thing. That's different. That's different with everybody. But I'll tell you one thing, you know,
maybe I need more testosterone. No, you don't need more
no,
testosterone. You need more work.
right. Yeah. Like that is, I'm not going to say it's overrated because it's actually, it's something that's involved in our sport, but, it's not like around the range of, hey, the more you take, the bigger you get. And if anything, to be honest with you, you can get to a point where your body's super toxic. And when you do that, your system is not going to work it's just not going to work as well. I'm also a fan, and I've had people that I've trained, and I've told them, hey, listen, I know you've done 3 shows, you want to do 2 more. I just want you to know I'm not going to coach you because their system is fried and their body's not going to respond the right way. So they're not going to be happy. They're not going to look the way that they want to look. And they're probably to the point where they're going to probably start doing some damage to themselves because the compounds that you take getting ready for a show are different than the things that you take in the off season. So I've literally had people say, hey, and a couple times that I did do it, it wasn't a good outcome. They didn't look the best. They weren't happy. And I knew that they weren't going to peak right because your body just can't, your body just cannot continuously keep doing that. You get to a point where your body's just really, to be honest with you, just it's unhealthy.
How often need do blood test per year, for example, for bodybuilder?
Like at least twice a year, you know, um, at least twice a year. And arguably, the more somebody's competing, the more you need to check it, and then you should make that be an indicator too on are you going to do another show? If your liver enzymes, everything's through the roof and, your creatinine levels start creeping up. You gotta,
What the IV you can recommend after a show, for example?
yeah, no, absolutely. IVs are, back in my day, I wish we had all that stuff. Like I would live off glutathione now, you know, we didn't have all that back then. There was no place you could go get an IV, but now, you can go get you can get a whole glutathione push and your body can take up a lot of it. And that's going to really help cleanse you out. You can do that actually in your prep, you know?
So maybe you can recommend anything else, for recovery after a show?
Yeah, like you want to do a whole complete, vitamins and mineral profile, B12 and vitamin C, vitamin D. You want to do some different things like for your liver enzymes, but I would check them, but I would also wait about 6 weeks or so after your show because no matter what, they're going to be elevated. So you need a little bit of time, and then after that, then you can come up with a protocol based off of what your blood work were.
Okay, so what about your first Olympia?
First Olympia,
Yeah, maybe you remember.
of
How
course.
do you feel?
You know what? It's funny. It took me a really long time to turn pro. And then I think I won the nationals in November. And then I competed in the Colorado Pro Show and the New York Pro. It was, I think it was, no, I think it was the New York Pro back then. They just started it, opened it. And I placed, and back then, there wasn't as many shows. So if you actually in the New York Pro, I believe it was a top 5 in most shows, and it got down to the top 3, and then it got to the fact that you had to win a pro show to qualify. So my first show, I qualified for the Olympia. So I did 2 shows back to back, and then I qualified for the Olympia. So it was kind of like, man, I've only been a pro for less than 6 months, and now I'm able to compete in the Olympia. So that was a high, but I never forget. I remember Sean Ray said to me, "Hey, man, take it all in because you probably won't be getting called out at the at the beginning, So it's like I look at it like, man, I had like the best seat in the house because I got my butt kicked, but I was there, and I deserved it, and I earned my right to be there. But quality wise, the guys were just a lot better than me there. Like years later, when I was competing, like maybe in my third Olympia, even my second, I felt like I knew I really felt like I belonged there.
Hmm.
But you know, so that was an honor, obviously.
What about high weight? I used high weight for example, for grow your legs, for
High weight, and what do you mean?
high weight for your squat,
Oh,
for
training
example.
heavy?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but my legs didn't grow from that. Mine like I've done squatted 500 pounds, whatever. My legs didn't grow like that. Mine was 315 for
Mm-hmm.
20 repetitions and 5 sets of it. Maybe 15. But I would do a couple exercises, couple sets, with lower reps, but the majority of the reps were high, like, but not light, with maybe within 365,
Mm-hmm.
for 405 for 10, 5 sets, 10 sets. We even did 10 sets of 10. That's the way that my legs grew. But just to get on there, I can't tell you a time that I've ever trained legs that wasn't at least 8 to 10 repetitions and up to 20. That's when my legs grew.
Mm-hmm.
But here again, there was also stuff that had to be outside the box. Like drop sets were really great. We used to do this things called ladders, which I think you've heard of. And my buddy Roger at the gym
Yeah.
always likes to talk about those. And basically, it's get on the leg press. You do 2 plates for 20, 3 plates for 30, 4 plates for 40, 5 plates for 50, 6 plates for 60. Then you go back. Then you go back down. 50, 40, 30, all the way back down. And those. You finish with that after the squats, leg press, hack squats. If your legs don't grow, come talk to me.
I remember my first legs workout with you. Oh my god.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember. So after workout, oh my gosh, please God help me. He killed me.
Yeah, but that's literally for legs. That's what it takes. Because it's like I was just talking to one of my clients about this today. Actually, I was telling her, bodybuilding is an illusion.
Hmm.
So if you can get your legs, to grow a little bit in your adductors, your outer sweep comes out a little bit more. All of a sudden now, when you're doing your pictures, you turn your foot a little bit. All of a sudden now, your body has a total different illusion.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, you might not weigh it 1 pound more,
Hmm.
but it's the illusion, you know, how you're illustrating your body, and that's the art of bodybuilding. You know,
If you have a conversation about legs, so I'm so interesting about glutes too, and interesting for our viewers today. For example, you doing prep for wellness division right now, right? So, what you can recommend for good grow glutes for girls, okay, for guys too. So, what the exercise is better for growing? What the
well,
weight good is for
this
growing?
is this is a very controversial topic because I see now. You have to remember, I'm old school.
Uh-huh.
You know, but
Hard workout, right? So, mhm.
like you want you want legs, you get under a squat rack. Now you can do. There's so many different forms of doing a squat rack, but ways you can position yourself to put more emphasis on your glutes. But you know, you're very. I don't spend a lot of time doing like cables and all that. I tell my clients those are accessory stuff, and you can do that on your own. But I need to push you through the stuff that's going to make your legs grow. You know, but I do those towards the end of the workout, and then the closer to a prep, you know. But like that's the walking lunges is like staple for me, you know. Other than the fact that it helps you get actually in shape, you know. I don't know. I never didn't finish a leg workout without walking lunges. You know, no matter how tired,
I
no matter
remember
how,
your lunges.
you know, and then, you know, like we used to do it back in the day. We would do it with a free bar, and we would actually take the weight off the floor, 45, two plates, and walk to the gym, walk back and forth like that.
Hard job.
You can't tell me that you're not going to build everything in your legs like that. You know, and it's like I very rarely see a girl with big, huge glutes and like little skinny legs. You know, like maybe a little bit in bikini, a little bit. Some girls, you know, they can do, you know, emphasis on that. That's not my specialty though. You know, I'm not a great on how to just make someone's glutes grow only their glutes, you know, because I know that the force that it takes to grow. And usually it's not with a total bunch of cables and stuff. Like the hip thrust is real popular now. I throw that in there, but it's more popular now than it was back in the day. You know?
Yeah, I know.
I know you know very well. But you know, look, I mean, think about like from a bodybuilding standpoint. I mean, who had some of the freakiest glutes ever? Ronnie Coleman. His glutes were huge. It strided out the wazoo, and you know, and he's known for those walking lunges in the parking lot. You know,
Yeah, I
so
know. My athletes sometimes ask me, "Oh my gosh, my legs is not growing." Of course, it's not growing. What are you doing?
yeah, you got to push yourself.
Yes.
You got to push yourself. I used to have a whole routine set up for my leg day, you know, which is a little bit crazy, but it was like I wouldn't train people after legs. I would train people before legs. I would go home, I would get done, I'd have my shake, I would wait an hour, I'd eat again, and I would take a nap. I would get up, have another meal, have another nap. Like I literally, because, you know, I was competing at the highest level in the world, and that was a body part that was hard for me to grow. So I literally had to do everything possible that I could to not just do that leg workout, to recover from it. You know, so that's why I made Wednesdays and Saturdays my leg day. I did Saturdays.
So 2 times per week,
I
right?
did. For me, that's what worked best. You know, like I tried I tried one day a week. For me, it wasn't enough. No, just didn't. It wasn't enough for me. You know, there were times where I was really spent, and I would make it one more quad dominant than hamstrings. But I usually always did quads. I did quads twice a week.
So how many days you can recommend for wellness athletes? How many days need for good grow glutes, legs? Because for
Twice.
this division,
Right.
right?
It's
It's
primarily
very
that.
important.
Yeah.
The big.
You know, my opinion is would be still twice a day, twice a week, and I would do one touch up workout that you didn't need, that you didn't get sore. Because the whole thing is you training legs. Like I know a lot of wellness girls do 3 days a week. The whole thing is if you're training really super hard and you're not recovering from your workout, you're wasting your time. You have to recover. So I would do one with like obviously less volume. That would be more of your accessory day, like you know the hip flexor, the adductors, and butt blaster, and all those exercises. Now there's 18,000 butt blasters, every different angle that you can do. That would be the day that we do that stuff.
Bodybuilding like old school and bodybuilding right now. It's a different story, or
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, yeah, and get a little
So
deeper, like
yeah, for example, on the stage,
Hmm.
bodybuilding, old school, bodybuilding right now,
Well, I would say that
different or no?
little bit, little bit. I would say that I can put some decent insight on this because I competed obviously way back in the day, and then
Mm-hmm.
I competed like I think it was like 7, 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and things were different back in the day. Guys were more conditioned, I would say, like through their chest and shoulders. I see some
Mm-hmm.
guys now, which is kind of weird. Like they won't have a striation in their chest or shoulder, but they have striated glutes this deep, which
Mm-hmm.
is so I don't understand how it's possible. You know? But now back in the day, you didn't necessarily have to have like shredded glutes. Like Lee Haney
Mm-hmm.
didn't have shredded glutes. Rich Gaspari was one of the guys that was I
Who
think
is
the
your
first
favorite person?
bodybuilder.
Yes.
Physique wise, I'd probably say Flex Wheeler or
Mm-hmm.
Lee Haney.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. And classic?
you know what? Like I don't follow the guys as much as I should. Obviously Bumstead has an amazing physique.
Uh-huh.
He's somebody that I believe could have did in any division, just you know, any division that he wanted to. But a lot of the guys' names now, I know their faces, but I don't really know their names. But everyone's always asked me, and I'm like, oh, the one guy, the sweep to his quads more, But
You answer about bodybuilding is a little bit different right
mhm.
now. What about women's categories?
Well, I mean,
I think it's not little bit different. I
no,
think
it's a
it's
lot
a
different. Like
lot
like
different.
the figure division, like I never competed when there was a wellness. Like that's it's relatively new. That's new. And then the physique, girls got bigger too, because the figure girls got bigger.
Yeah.
You know, so at the beginning, I remember there was figure girls that they just it was primarily shape, and it wasn't like really, really, really hard.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's like anything. Things can evolve. But I think it's all great, to be honest with you, from a lot of aspects. I think it's great because it can bring there's so many different people can compete now.
Mhm.
You got bikini, but bikini girls now are like really hard compared to what they were before. You know,
What important for you when you're doing the prep for girls?
hmm
What important for you?
what's
So,
important?
stay feminine, you know.
You know what's funny? It's funny that you asked that.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if somebody came to me and they were like, let's say a 24-year-old girl,
Mhm.
and told me that she wanted to compete at the highest level in the world of women bodybuilder, if I would take her on. Yeah, it's not something that, it's just not something that I have interest in doing.
Mhm.
Like, hey, listen, I don't knock anybody, but as a coach, I do believe that there is a responsibility that you have to tell these people, what you're doing, what the consequences can be. I don't believe you can ask any person that I've ever trained. I tell them all the time, like I want to get you on stage. I want you to be the best you can be, but I want you to be healthy. And I won't ever do anything that I'm not okay with. Rather, you need to go get another coach. That's fine. There's
Mhm.
plenty of people that respect that. Now, listen, I'm competitive just like everybody else. I don't ever want somebody to go on stage and be like, look like a hot mess. I want them to be competitive. But if me making them competitive means that they might do something that they might regret down the road, because they don't know. They just want it right now. They want to be able to be competitive today. But it takes time to build like that type of physique. And a lot of times now, coaches, it's a big numbers. They're after numbers. So they'll tell anybody. I never tell people like, hey, come train with me and I'm going to train you pro. I never told anybody that in my life.
Mhm.
You know. And I remember with you,
Yeah.
I like you kept saying the pro card, and I say, listen, the physique is going to come. There's a reason why I do that too, because I think coach it, you do it injustice to people, making them be only think that they succeed if they win. It's out of our control. You could do everything great, and whatever reason, the judges didn't like you that day, for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden, did we lose? Did all the hard work we did because you ended up getting fourth place and everybody thought you should have took second or you should have won? Did we lose? If I'm constantly telling you, hey, you're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to win, and then you don't, then you feel like you failed, but you look better than you ever did in your life,
Yeah.
And then there's always another show. You have a good attitude on stage. I can't tell you how many times I've done a show and people told me that I should have done better, and I never would go like, oh, judges screwed me, or I just think that's soft, like you just go back and you just come back and you become better,
Yeah, of
And
course.
at the end of the day, like the goal is to continuously to get better, especially when it's like a little local show and they just started and they're talking about the judges and they just started doing the show. No one's ever seen you before. You're going to look at this and realize that you have a lot of room. You have a lot of room for improvement. Be focused on the improvement, not just about the outcome of the placing. So that's why I try to get people to think like that versus like, oh yeah, we're going to turn pro. Obviously that's the goal. And I've had plenty of people turn pro. You turn pro. But the goal is for us to beat how we looked before. The goal is for us to wake the day of the show and be like, we're on, we're ready, we feel good. You feel, you look good, you feel confident. Because if you're on stage and you feel confident, you're going to look better on stage.
Of course.
If you feel like, oh, I don't feel like my best and this and that, next thing you're not going to perform the same.
Yeah, I'm agree. I'm agree by that. So, what do you think about posing? It's important or
Well,
so?
I honestly, that's something that I miss of the days. And then to be honest with you, I fell victim of it. Like, you're so tired. And towards the end of my career, I didn't spend as much time on I'd spent my time on mandatories, because when you're in a battle, that's where you got to be able to do. But I didn't spend a lot of time on my routines and stuff like I did. When I was younger, I did. But that's because I felt like, nobody else was either, and then you would see people, and it's kind of tough too. You see people doing pretty much the same routines, but it's because you only have so much time. You want to display your physique. If it wasn't judged solely on like, how well the transitions are, it's based off of how those poses look when you're doing those poses. Are you holding them right? Are you squeezing your glutes? So I was more fixated practicing that versus like making my routines look great. But I love the old school bodybuilding, like Sean Ray, Vince Taylor, even, with the older, even Kai.
It's a different
It's different. I
aesthetic.
mean, they really put time and effort and the fans loved it too. But if nobody else is doing it, that's why the classic is great, because a lot of all those guys' routines are on point. Those guys' routines are great, but the open has gotten lazy.
Did you have a cotton plan that always work for you?
No, no.
Always different.
Yeah. And I owe a lot of that to my trainer, Hani Rambod, because before I was working with him, I was pretty much along the lines of I would do the same thing. And however I looked, from that I looked. But when I worked with him, I learned how to really coach people. And that's like, actually, a lot of people, you have to know what you're looking for. Like one of the things that I'm sure you've said it to me before. We're in there. It's Wednesday. We train legs on Tuesday. You're on 50 grams of carbs, and you're like, Bill, oh my God, I'm so flat. And I'm like, it's a show today. Like you're like, I'm like, it's a show today. I'm like, you're like, no. I'm like, so we're not trying to peak today. I'm like, you just did legs yesterday. You did 45 minutes of cardio today. Your body's super tired. Your legs are swollen. No, yeah, your body's not going to peak today. But there's so many people that get caught up in there trying to look good every day in the mirror. And if you do that, you will never be your best. Because, like, to be honest with you, if I have you on 50 grams of carbs, you're doing 45 minutes of cardio 2 times a day, and you're super full, you're probably cheating on your diet.
So,
I'm like, yeah, okay, this is really odd. You're super pushing, you're super full. Yeah, and you're on 50 grams of carb for the last 4 days. There's a good chance that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's a process, and to get there, that's something that has to happen.
so, and I think I have a good question about cardio time. How long you did your cardio at the time you did the prep? So, how long?
It varied, and it depends how far out I am and what I look like, and the closer you get, obviously. I mean, I have done up to 2 hours a day.
2 hours.
I have done up to 2 hours a day.
So, guys, 2 hours is not 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, now listen, I'm not saying that doesn't work. If you're peeled, but the other thing too is, and this is very important, a lot of times when I see people compete in shows and they have a coach, and this is nothing against their coach, different coaches have different ideas of what conditioning is. I've seen people be like, oh my God, my coach says, I'm 3 weeks out, I'm ready. And I'm looking at them being like, you're not. Like, you're ready to look okay in place, but it goes back to, you want to be elite. You want to be elite. And there's a different level, and like I said, I learned a lot of that through the people that I had around me. I had a lot of people that were elite, and it's hard to get elite if you have a bunch of people in your ear telling you, you look great, you're ready. I remember when I was competing, I didn't want people to see me. I didn't want people in the gym to tell me how great I look, because if I don't look great, getting ready for the Mr. Olympia 3 weeks out, to everybody in my gym, I'm really doing something wrong. It's not their fault, but of course I look amazing. But they're not the judges. They're not. So if you don't have elite people looking at you, meanwhile, it can get into your head. And that's what I didn't want. I didn't want, oh man, Bill's great. It looks amazing. Maybe you let off the gas tank a little easier. Maybe you get off the treadmill. You're at 40 minutes and you're supposed to do 45. You stop 5 minutes early. Maybe you put an extra thing of nuts. Oh, I'm ready. I rather not think I'm there versus I'm there. How are you going to become elite? I know I keep saying that, but it's just true. There's just no other way. And most of the people, you hear the lines of suffering. It's suffering, but it's more on the lines of following the program, following the game plan. I've had easy preps before where I looked great. Not easy in the sense, I meant in my head, I was locked in. I didn't have a lot of distractions in my life, and I was super focused. Yeah, I was still, working really hard, but I didn't look at it like suffering. A lot of the suffering came from different times, like the year that I won the nationals. I was 3 weeks out. There was a hurricane. All the roads were closed. There was a curfew. There was no. The supermarkets were closed. And but I can honestly say I didn't miss one meal. I didn't miss one cardio session. I went to the gym, opened it up, had a flashlight, was doing my cardio in the gym with a flashlight. Then I went to Atlanta and trained at Atlanta for the last 2 weeks by myself, But it's just how bad do you want it? And I don't see it. Sometimes I don't see a lot of people want it like that. But here, again, it goes back to what are your standards? If you're trying to be elite at something, you've got to do what the elite do. Elites, they're fine. I'll find a way to get it done. That's just how it is. You just got to have the idea of like what your actual goal is. And then it's like tunnel vision, like nothing else matters.
Why I ask? Because the athletes often complain
Yeah.
about, oh my God, 2 hours cardio, I can't, I'm tired. Maybe 1 hour, that's it.
Yeah. Listen, it might get to that point. I've had one of my clients, Jesse, there was times when him and I, when we first started, we had to do so much cardio for him to get down. But we got his body, he worked with me all year. So we got his body to a point where, and I always said this, and I even told this to you, there's a certain way I want you to look before we even start dieting. So if we do that towards the end, if I did that same protocol that we did before, he'd be way too much cardio, way too much. So it's different. I've had times where I'm starting to speed up. Oh, okay, wow, coming down too fast. Slow it down a little bit. Then there's, okay, take a day off, take 2 days off. But you have to be willing to do that. Usually to get really, really in condition, some part in the prep, rather it's the middle, the beginning, or the end, you're going to have to really, you're going to have to suck it up.
Yeah.
No matter, like, from my experience, like, it's going to, sometimes, I never really do that at the beginning, but usually it's the middle, it's the middle time, and then towards the end, back it off a little bit, back off the cardio. But that road to get that skin paper thin, it's really hard. It's really hard not to.
For example, for me, my every step, I'm enjoying,
I know. I remember.
Okay, cardio. Okay, I'm doing cardio. So more workouts. Okay, I'm doing more workouts. So my meals is not 5, just 4. Okay, I'm doing 4, but I'm still happy.
That's so true. I remember that. I used to say it. I don't know how you're a big old smile on your face that no matter what I say, yeah, that's a blessing, Like I wasn't that bad, but I was so I was a lot different pre-contest because you see me in the gym, I'm always like being silly and dancing and talking to everyone. But when I get ready for a show, like I'm locked in, and a lot of times though people respect it because they knew what you're trying to accomplish. But you were like big old smile every day.
Yeah. So, how has the sport changed since your time on stage?
Oh wow! I mean, now there's a lot more shows. There's a lot more prize money for the top people. For the people that don't do well, it's tough. I mean you got the Olympia. It's like 500, 600,000 now. Arnold this year 750. But there's a big drop off. Like if you're not in that top 5, I don't even know if they're getting anything. But from that standpoint, a lot more money from that standpoint. But back in the day, though, I remember my first Olympia. I never really placed high, and you always got something. You would a couple $1,000s. I think from the beginning was 4,000. 2,000. But this is nothing against them. They keep raising the prize money, but there's so many divisions. And there's also a lot more people competing in Olympia. Back in the day, there's like 20, 22, 23 people. Now, classic physique, I don't know, I could be mistaken, but I think there was like 40, 50 people, and then everybody's not going to get,
The amateurs guys are often thinking about, oh, bodybuilding is bringing me money. Tomorrow.
No, you got to be elite. But I'll tell you what it does do, is especially now because of social media and different things. I mean, you are your brand, and now there's a lot more platforms now for you to build a brand that there wasn't back in my day. We cut the tail end of the social media, but it wasn't even mandatory. Like my sponsors, they didn't even make me post. They'd be like, we just literally went to shows and did, the guest appearances was a lot more now. Back then, you do a guest appearance, promoters don't have guest posers like as many as they did back in the day, and there was, that's one thing that's different. There's still some, but not, there was, pretty much every show had a guest poser back in the day.
What was the salary
Salary?
you have,
Every
from your sponsors?
everybody's different. Here again, it depends on how good you were. I remember when I first was getting up there, Muscle Tech was a big company that sponsored a lot of guys, and I believe that they did. It was like you did like a before and after picture, and they would give you like $10,000, and I think that was it though. And then you would get, and then you would they would negotiate your contract after you turned pro. Like I was with Biotech, and we got a couple hundred. I mean, a couple $1,000s a month. And I think it was 3,000, something like that. And it was different. I mean, there's guys that were making, you know, Ronnie was making what, close to $1 million. But
It's a different.
but there's not, wasn't common. But now doesn't really. Back then, it was pretty much based on your performance and how well you are as an athlete, how your rankings were. Now it's not a matter like that. Now it's how many followers you have.
Now social media.
Social media.
If you don't have a social media,
And it kind of stinks because I'm like, obviously I'm not a big social media guy. I keep trying to work on it, but it helps. It's so helpful in every business, especially if you have some insight on the sport and different things, it's so helpful. You're always on me about posting more and
yes.
get myself out there more.
Yes.
I know.
So, what do you think about real bodybuilding right now? Who will be the first? Who doing the social media, or he doing the good quality muscles? So
You know what? Honestly, I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't follow a lot of the guys that much. I think who I think I have a lot of respect for is Nick Walker. I mean, there's so many people talk so much crap on him, and he just is like, I don't care. I believe in myself, my team, and I just think that's such a great message. So from that aspect, I have a lot of respect for him for that, because I don't see anybody take as much slack as him for his veins or his big waist or whatever. But it's funny, everybody can critique everybody. That's the sport. But it's still, at the end of the day, I mean, he's the elite of the elite. Like, you cannot take that away from anyone. You're top 3 in the world at anything. You're a hardworking individual. You don't like this part of his physique. Okay, doesn't matter. He's still, guess what? You can say whatever you want about his waist. He's still winning. And he's going to continue.
yeah.
You could not like certain things about people's physique, and that's the sport. But he takes a lot of criticism.
So I have a next question. These days, a lot of people blame genetics when they don't see result. What would you say to them?
Well, I would tell you to worry about the controllables, the things that you can control. You can't control that, so do everything you possibly can. But I mean, I wouldn't sit around thinking time about something that I have no control over. Like, okay, are you eating all your meals? Are you training hard? Are you recovering? Are you taking everything properly? Are you giving your body enough rest? I mean, there's so many factors. I would focus on the things that I can control versus, the things that I have no control over.
What do you think about supplements?
Hmm.
It's very important at the time doing prep, or no?
Um, Not as important as the other things. Not as important as the food. That's for sure. I mean, it's an aid. Even protein shakes. I mean, like eat 6 protein shakes a day and see how you look on stage. I mean, have one. And then towards the end, probably usually phase it out. But like simple ones like BCAAs and branched amino acids and creatine and stuff like that, and your vitamins and minerals and stuff like that, absolutely. But is that what's going to build that world? That's not going to make you elite. you know?
What do you think about today's diet and supplement culture for real life? Because I think it's different at the time, old school. What do you think about
I don't know if it is. I don't know how much different. I mean, it's pretty much the same, like the same supplements. I mean, there's more like all the everybody's crazy about all the pre-workouts. Like which a lot of this is a scam. Because like people just want to get all jacked up. They're not thinking about the other reasons why you take pre-workout. And it's not just for you to feel
it?
like
So, yeah, a lot of people they tell about I can't make my workout
without
without
pre-workout.
pre-workout.
Yeah, that's just
It's crazy
it's
when you
crazy.
think about it.
Yeah. I think it's crazy. I mean, use pre-workout for pump. Like that's what back in the day. That's why like when I used to always take pre-workouts, I used to always take EBP, Honey Rambod's product. Because it was basically stimulant free, and we were using it, to actually help us, get the blood flowing and get have the pumps. But nowadays, a lot of people it's just it's all stimulant based.
So, how do your workouts look today?
You know, right now I'm probably working out like 4 days a week.
Uh-huh.
You know,
And stretching?
not enough, not enough. But like obviously, the older we get, I don't train heavy like I used to at all. Nor do I want to be honest with you. I need to do more mobility work, stuff like that. Like you're saying, like the stretching. I just want to be healthy. That's
So, the stretching is important at the time you're doing the prep.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Even to be honest with you, just to get into some of the poses. Like a lot of times if you doing a back double bicep, if your mobility is not good, you can't actually get your body in the positions the right way. Side tricep, being able to turn the right way, you're too stiff. So and actually for preventing preventing of injury. You know.
What the, what the injury you have?
Well, I tore my pec and my tricep. Actually, that's probably the main. I wanted to do one more show, and actually at that time span, my dog got in a fight with another dog. I was trying to save the little dog's life, which I did, but I tore my pec and my tricep at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to get it reattached. And I waited and waited. And then it was just like, I got to a point where I had like no strength in my tricep. And then my pec was like just flopping around. So I went to go get it reattached. I got them both reattached. But because I waited so long, cosmetically, it just never looked the same. Never looked right, because I waited too long. And they just, but I'm still glad that I got it. At least I'm able to get strength back in it. But yeah, but
What about after bodybuilding? Because we understand professional sport, it's not about healthy.
Right. Right.
So, what about bodybuilding? How do you felt about after your career?
Um, I'm like I said, I believe I'm pretty healthy, you know. But I also thank the good Lord, I was very strategic in how I competed. I never did a lot of shows. I always did a like I would do maybe like two shows, take a break, and then the Olympia. If I qualified for the Olympia, if I would do two shows and I didn't qualify for the Olympia, no Olympia for me that year, and I would wait till the next year. One, I was able to be able to improve, and the other thing too was I was able to, you know, stop taking everything that I was taking and get my body really cleaned out, get my blood work done. So I was never on the lines of like do everything just to compete in the Olympia. That just didn't make any sense to me. Like if I couldn't qualify after doing a couple of shows, I wasn't just going to keep doing show after show after show just to go to Olympia stage and not do well. That to me, that just doesn't make any sense. And I never did the Arnold, which a little bit of a regret. But I just felt that if I was going to pick a show that I wasn't going to be able to be in the top in the mix to make money. I didn't want to do both because I wasn't gonna at the Arnold to make good money. You need to really be in the top three. And I at the time I didn't. I was always very honest with my physique. I didn't think I was gonna be in the top three, even the top five. So I'm like, okay, then it doesn't make sense to the Olympia and the Arnold and not be in the top five of either one of them. That just didn't make any sense to me.
What bodybuilding is give for you? Okay, discipline. What else?
Oh man, I met a lot of great people, and it got me a lot of good jobs, a lot of good opportunities. Even the Revival Health, which is my new company that I'm going to have. This is the first time that I've actually spoke on it. And I was with a company before, and things didn't work out there. And but I still had a love and passion for the anti-aging space, and I wasn't just going to give up on that because something else didn't work. So now I'm going to be opening Revival Health probably within the next month.
Do you go to the church? I know.
I do actually.
You come in every week, right?
That's like one of my non-negotiables. You know, I don't do it, and it's funny because I post me being in church on Sundays, and I don't do it for people to be like, oh, because I really don't care what people think either way. I do it just about because everything in every state of life, everything is about being committed in your due diligence. That's why, like I said, for me, it's one of my non-negotiables, and the reason why is not because I'm some crazy Christian person, which I'm always working towards that. But I noticed that I have way more patience with people. I have more understanding, even people that do me wrong and dirty, and I I forgive them for that. And I realize that they're just trying to live their best life their own way, just like me, because we're all sinners. So it from that standpoint, it really has helped me.
Can you tell about your new goal for your business, for example?
Yeah, well, basically, it's pretty much similar to the business that I was doing before. It's just the functional wellness side. So we'll do hormone replacement therapy, medical weight loss, peptides. One of the cool things is the platform that we're using now. I'll have access to because it's going to be telehealth. We'll have access to, all 50 states.
Oh, 50.
And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so and I got a really good team, a great doctor, and a
Who is doctor?
good team.
Who is doctors?
I'm not gonna
Who is
mention
doctors?
I'm not gonna mention any names for anybody right now.
what the
They're all in the functional wellness space. So my particular doctor that we have, he's been doing this for like I think like 15, 20 years. But yeah, in the platform, I got a really good team. So and my sister will be working with me, and she worked with me in my previous place. So I'm excited about that. And listen, everything happens for a reason, and I always look at the positive in things. Like I learned so much, and I'm super thankful for the opportunity that I had. Even though it didn't work out there, I learned so much, and I'm grateful for that.
So I'm interested in, for example, how can I make the order like IV therapy or
IV,
peptides?
IV, we will not be doing at the beginning. I do believe if it's meant to be, it's going to. I will have a physical location, but at the beginning, it's just going to be telehealth.
So, and all athletes who is here, I can recommend, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, your
Yeah,
company.
yeah. Well, we're used to looking at blood work from athletes that are doing things, and we're not there to judge. We're there to help them do things better and make them healthier. That's
Do you have a link
not yet.
your site, but maybe for future?
I didn't even plan on actually speaking on it yet, but that's my first time publicly to ever mention anything about it. But I've been working really hard on it, and I believe within the month guys should start seeing things of the company.
Maybe you have a new goal, like for your coaching career.
Yeah, I got away from coaching for a while, only because I was putting all my focus on other things. But you know what it is? It's like I don't want to get back into the stage of coaching a ton of athletes. I'm not going to say I handpick my people, but I handpick my people. Like I don't have the time to say, hey, I'm going to train 30 people and get 30 people ready for a show, because I believe if I take you on as a client, that means that you're part of my team, that I need to make sure that I'm available for you. And I already have a ton of great clients that I've had for years. And then with the new company, I 5-6 people. That's pretty much all I'm looking to train for people for, as far as for shows. But they also got to be very serious. If I feel like that I'm not gonna, don't waste my time, and I won't waste your time.
I love the dream. So maybe you can imagine who is Bill Wilmore after 5 years, for example.
You know what's funny? Like my biggest thing now, like some things happen in my life that make me realize like what's really important, and I want to help as many people as I can, but I have to, as a man, be okay with everything that I'm doing, knowing that I'm not doing people wrong or just to make money or anything like that. Like I have to be okay with everything that I'm doing.
It's a great honor for me, to speak with you today.
Thank you.
So, and to speak about you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Had
Oh
a
my
great
gosh.
time.
Oh my gosh. It's very important for me. I
Yeah,
think
you made it.
we think we
You made it.
recorded a wonderful podcast.
We did.
It's your story. I think it's very important who is love bodybuilding, will be stay healthy,
Absolutely.
It's
And
very important.
you can do it healthy,
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is like, you want to enjoy the process, and the process is it's like life. It's freaking hard, and the days you want to cry and stop and quit. But you won't look what you'll never get there if you quit. When you quit, you'll never know what you might have ahead of you.
I think is not only enjoy process, enjoy all your life.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
I'm super proud about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was awesome.
I'm happy.
You and me both.
I'm happy.
You should be your first. English, so now you can do it.
Oh my God.
Freaking great. You freaking did it.
Oh,
You did it.
you know,
You did it.
I'm worried. I'm still worried.
You did great. You did great. I gotta go
Thank you.
back.
Thank you.
Where is it?